How about that? Really, Mary Tom told me that story just a couple of weeks ago and swore me to secrecy, but she knows now that I'm not good to my word. I remember a few things about Stella. I made a trip to her to Missouri one time, and if you've ever gone across from Cape Girardeau to Fredericktown on a gravel road at 75 miles an hour with the tires squealing around every curve and the gravel going in the ditch, you know what kind of ride I had. She drove that car with her foot in the carburetor all the time. I remember one time at this very facility, except at that time it was a single room and had a coal stove in the middle of it to keep everybody warm. Billy Frank and I had the job of coming over on Sunday and starting the fire so it would be warmed up when everybody got here to church. Well, one night we came over and we started the fire. Nobody showed up. So I said, Billy, why don't we just hold services ourselves? So he preached. I played the piano and sang. Of course, I can't carry a tune. That's why my wife and I have so many children. We remember the rhythm system. She couldn't count and I couldn't carry tunes. We wound up with 7 kids. But during the services, it came time to take up the offertory. Billy, by the way, I failed to mention that we each got a quarter apiece for building the fire. Billy came around with a plate, and I had to drop my quarter in it. So I quit coming with him to build the fire after that. I had this all prepared, but I had some censors involved. My wife, for one, and my daughter for the other. And I want to ask you to hold this just a second. By the way, I had sent an email to my kids and told them that I wanted to know if they had a black wig. I got one back from my daughter and she said, Dad, I got one and I don't want to even know why you want it. Well, Stella never did dye her hair. Now you can tell that I really am her brother. Because I don't dye my hair either. And don't ever tell my daughter what I did with this wig.
You look like
Already did that. I won't do that one later. Robert Howard was going to tell this story himself, but his wife talked him out of it. My wife couldn't talk me out of it. When Robert was younger, he used to imbibe a little bit on weekends, sometimes more than others. And a lot of times he'd wind up in jail at Ireland. Of course, Stella and Tom and the kids lived there at that time. I do think there was on occasion that Tom spent the night with Robert there too, but I'm not sure. But on Sunday morning, Stella would get that call, guess where I am? Robert would say, yeah, I'm down here in the pokey and I can't get out. So Stella would dig around and find that $50 and go down there and get old Robert out of jail. But he didn't learn. Next week, next couple of weeks, he'd be back in there again. But he finally moved to Florida, married a good woman, and she straightened him out. Or at least that was our hope. But Stella never did fail to help him. She always found that $50 and come and pay his way. I remember one time when we lived out on the Fuqua place, she dropped Billy Frank off out there to spend the day with us because she had something that she had to do. She gave Billy money to get a haircut. But Billy and I studied about that money for a while and decided that he had enough that we could go to Milan and go to the movie and get some popcorn and a soft drink. if we could only figure out a way for him to get a haircut. Well, I went and got my daddy's old hand clippers, and I cut his hair. We went to Milan and went to the show and got back. And Stella got home about dark, and she said, "Billy, what happened to your hair?" Well, he said, "I got him cut just like you said." And it was pitiful. My dad was a pretty good haircutter, but he couldn't straighten it out, and Stella cried. She didn't cry because the haircut looked that bad. It's just as she said, all those friends of mine that saw him walking the street in Pilot, that pitiful looking haircut. Billy wore a cap, I think, for a month. I got to look at my notes. I didn't have time to remember all this, and I typed it on a silly computer that it shorts some keys. And some of my things come out a little bit, look like they run it through one of them systems to encrypt it or something. But I did have a dream last night. I dreamed I talked to Stella. She was in heaven. She said she was happy and felt right at home there with all of her friends and those of her kin that had made it to the pearly gates. She has a brand new red Ford Mustang and was driving it all around heaven with angels jumping off the clouds to get out of her way. She said, "Tell you that she still does not dye her hair." I heard a voice saying, "Tell Stella's," a loud voice in the background, saying, "Tell Stella's family and friends that all the times they thought of her or said a prayer or said, 'I love you.' She may not have heard them, but I did."